Alright, peace and greetings, YouTubers. So, surviving Compton, let's just jump right into it. I have to be very honest. As soon as I finish this video, I have to call up one of my cousins and apologize for hitting her in the face with a belt back when we were little kids. And I mean, it wasn't my fault. I was actually fighting my little brother because he and I used to fight all the time. We still do on occasion. But anyway, he and I were in this little fight, and I was like, you know what, I'm tired of beating you up. I'm going to just whoop you because you don't listen. And so I remember I took my belt off, and I had it like the long way. I didn't have it bent. I had it like a real whip, like a lasso. And I remember I had it, and I swung at him, and he moved out the way, and I got mad. So when I drew the belt back to try to hit him a second time, I totally forgot my cousin was behind me. And that belt hit her so hard, like it swung back, wrapped around, slapped her in the face or whatever. And I mean, oh, she cried. I felt so bad that day. So yes, I need to go call her and apologize again just because. I mean, we're grown now. She's like 18, but I don't care. I need to just apologize because that was on my heart after watching this movie. This movie goes there. It's a film that really tackles the element of abuse and what it does to people. And I mean, there's so many layers to the film. And I have to say that Lifetime did a very good job with this film. You know, they've come a long way from that Aaliyah biopic because that movie was so terrible. When I tell you that Aaliyah movie still gets to me, like I still go to the altar for prayer over that movie because the way that my blood pressure rises when I hear Aaliyah's version of Got to Give It Up and remember that that song was used in the movie, I took all kind of herbal teas and stuff to just calm my nerves and lower my blood pressure after that film because it was just such an insult. But this specific film was very well put together solely because, one, Michel'le had her hand in the film, and I think because the director was passionate about Michel'le's story and the narrative that she experienced. And I think that this film also really sheds light on a lot that went on back in the day and even currently within the music industry and people who are in relationships that are abusive. My biggest critique, if I had a critique for this film, is that I wish it could have been maybe 30 minutes longer, 30, 40 minutes longer, just because I felt that they weren't able to capture the relationship with Suge Knight the same way they were able to capture Dr. Dre. By the way, there will be spoilers in this movie, so if you don't want to know what happened, don't watch this video. Or, you know, come back to this after you watched it. But yeah, so they did a great job of capturing what happened with Dr. Dre, but not really with Suge Knight. And so what happens is, you know, the Suge Knight portion is bunched up in a quick 30-minute session in addition to her life after Suge Knight and her present life. So you kind of got gypped on what really happened. And the only reason I say that I feel like they should have expounded on that is because when you're doing a film that tackles something like abuse, there's lots of people who are currently victims of abuse now. And I think sometimes a lot of these movies never really show what happens after you get out of the relationship and what it is that people do to make sure that they don't end up in those relationships again and that they don't repeat the cycle. And they kind of showed that with her leaving Dr. Dre, with her going to rehab and, you know, doing the yoga and all that stuff. But she jumped right back into that same kind of relationship again with Suge Knight. And, you know, we don't really know what happened. The movie kind of pushes it off like, okay, well, he did some stupid, shady business deals. He goes to jail. She calls him a punk, and they lived happily ever after. And it's kind of, it makes you wonder, like, well, there's more to the story because if you followed Michel'le's personal life, you know, she's attempted suicide before. And, you know, there's a lot of other things that happen. And I think when you talk about something like abuse, there's so many reasons why people stay in relationships. I'm no doctor, and I've never been in a relationship that was abusive, so I can't really say my 2 cents as law or fact, but my theory or just what my ideas would be, and just from what I read with research is, you know, people stay in abusive relationships for many different reasons. They stay in sometimes for financial reasons. Sometimes they can only survive if they're in that relationship because there's no means of living as far as finances because there's no money coming. They have to stay in a relationship with the person they're in because of money. A lot of times it's emotional and psychological. Sometimes people felt like they were never loved as a child or they were never, you know, in a good relationship and they meet somebody who just sweeps them off their feet and it's a perfect relationship and the relationship is good. But then it turns bad. And what happens is the person is holding on to that aspiration that the relationship will return back to what it used to be. And so they stay with things and they tolerate things and they put up with, you know, they put up with what they put up with because they remember the person that they first met. And they don't recognize that the person that they first met has now changed into something else. Or old skeletons that affect that person are now out and is tarnishing the relationship. So people stay in that relationship with the hopes of, one day we can get back to this. And it's kind of the same with people who are addicted to drugs. You know, most people who are addicts, they're trying to recapture that first high they got. Because, you know, something like cocaine or something like heroin, you get that first high and you never get it again. And so you constantly try to take these drugs and you try to take more and more to try to get back to that same high. But you can't, and it requires you to take more and more and more. And before you know it, you've done so much damage to yourself, and you're just screwed up overall. And I think it's the same with abusive relationships. Some people stay in these relationships so long trying to fix everything, and sometimes they think it's them, and, you know, it's like they end up so scarred and just so tarnished and just so they're just done with everything. And so I think I wish the movie would have kind of expounded upon what her life was like after 1998, or 2002 when she left Suge Knight. Because also in the movie, they were together for about 6 years. The movie didn't do a really great job of kind of showcasing the marriage, but I guess he was in jail for most of it. But overall, I think this movie was really well put together. I think the casting was great, the acting was on point. Even the main actress, I don't know if she did her voice like that the whole time or if they had some computer effects to make it happen, because Michel'le, I think she said she talks on top of her larynx, so I guess the voice box sits on top of the larynx, and that's what makes it squeaky, and that's why she can still sing and sound like everybody else, but when she speaks, her speaking voice is different. But I think the movie, it was very well put together. I think there was a lot of effort that was put into it. The only other thing I didn't know if I liked, I don't know if I liked with Michel'le popping up and doing the narration in and out. For some moments it was good, and then some moments I was like, I don't know. But I think it was just, overall, I really enjoyed the movie. I like how they, even the music complimented her career as far as the remakes and stuff. Sometimes when they remake these songs for the movies, they sound so terrible. But this one was kind of like the real ones, even though the background vocals were missing on a lot of the songs. It was just, it was a lot. Now, I do have to say this, Dr. Dre. You better be happy that you were not in a relationship with Left Eye, because, listen, Left Eye was just in a few fights with Andre Rison, and she burned the whole house down. Okay, so you better be grateful, because I don't know what she would have done had she been with you. But, listen, that movie, those abuse scenes, that was one aspect. I could just do a video on that, because I hate to be the person to sit from the sideline and say what I would have done, but I'm one of those people who, when I watch a movie, I automatically place myself in the shoes of the lead character, and I respond and act as they do. So watching this movie, I felt like I was in her shoes. Because one, I don't consider myself one to walk away from a fight. Oh, I will take on a fight. Let's do this. It's nothing. We can square up. I don't have to really fight too often, but I don't care. But in this film, Michel'le was not one to really fight back, and so she took it all. And man, so I was watching this movie thinking of all the things that she could have done to not get hit. And the first thing, one, was like when she was in the car with Dre, and I'm giving spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, maybe you might want to wait and then come back to this video after you watch the movie. But when she was in the car with Dre, and he went to the baby mama's house, and then her boyfriend was there, and he fought the dude, that would have been my sign to get up out of there the first time. But I wouldn't have left right away. I would have made sure he took me home safely, and then I would have changed that number, and I'd never talk to him again or something. But like, I would have known he was crazy after that, because I mean, the way he laid it out on that guy. And then the part that got me, I felt so bad that when he abused her in the bed, like when she was like laying there, he went and just beat her and everything. Oh, I felt so bad for her. And I mean, that was after she recorded the No More Lies song. And really, I feel like that was a retaliation against the song, because she wrote this song about how he was doing her. And man, if I was her, I'd be like, listen, this song is not, and I would have said it before we recorded, this is not about anybody that I'm in a relationship with. This song was inspired by a friend who told me about a relationship that they were in. I would have had some insurance on that. Like, you ain't about to hit me after singing this song. This ain't about you, Dre. This is about somebody I know from around the way, and they wanted me to share their story. And so I was like, this would be a great song. I would have played that off. And then the part where he was about to hit her, but he didn't because she was pregnant. Man, I would have been pregnant the whole movie. Like, Michel'le, I would have been pregnant for 17 years. Like, Andre, I'm pregnant again. I'm pregnant. Like, I'm pregnant. Just don't touch me. I'm pregnant. And then he also wouldn't hit her, like, when she was holding a child. So I would have been holding that child the whole movie. That child would have been 15. I still would have been holding him. Nope. Back up. Like, I cannot. That movie was a lot. And then I got scared when she confronted Suge Knight towards the end of the film, where she started calling him weak and all that stuff, and she did it in front of his whole crew. I was like, you're not trying to die. What you doing? And I was like, does she have some informants or something in the room that are going to jump in if something goes down? Because she's real confident right now. And I mean, her track record in this film ain't too good with the punches. And I'm not trying to make it a joke, but really, that's how I was looking at it. So yeah, there were some moments. And, I have to honestly say, the part that discouraged me the most about it was like, so many people sat and knew what was going on and didn't say anything. They would just watch. Suge Knight initially tried to say something about the abuse, and I think Eazy-E did too, or maybe that was Ice Cube. I can't remember who was who, but it was like so many people just sat there and said nothing, like it was okay. I was like, this is some effed up stuff, man. And it's so crazy because watching it from the outside, I'm like, why would you stay in that situation? But then when you looked at her childhood and how she was given the narrative of, well, if the man is abusing you, stop doing what you're doing to make him abuse you, and vice versa. And people really live by those narratives. That's really the norms for some people. And I'm like, that crap is crazy. So it makes me grateful that I've never had to grow up in an environment where that was the norm. And so that's just not an expectation in my household or my future household. You know what I mean? And Oh, it was crazy. And I totally forgot that she was really in that whole NWA crew and everything like that because, one, Straight Outta Compton, which, by the way, is still one of my favorite movies, you know, there was no mention of Michel'le. And the thing that got me, like, one, I really enjoyed that movie because, one, F. Gary Gray is one of my favorite movie directors. He did Set It Off as well, and he did a lot of TLC videos like Waterfalls, and I think he did Digging on You. But I was a little disappointed that now after seeing this movie that there was really no mention of her, but I do recognize that he didn't write the script. It was these two white men that wrote the script and won an Oscar for it, so we need to call them and ask them how come she wasn't in film, I guess. But you know, it's a lot, and it really tackles that element and that question of abuse and drug use and alcoholism and self-medication, and whew, there was just a lot in that movie, you know what I mean? And Dr. Dre, it kind of hurts my heart because I look at people like Dr. Dre and some of them as pioneers in that golden era of music, but you know, we always forget that we have to separate entertainers from their personal lives, and when they've done wrong by people they've done wrong, we have to acknowledge that. We can't always let, you know, the fact that we like their music deter us from what the real issues are, you know what I mean? And y'all have clearly done that with Nate Parker and Birth of a Nation. I didn't even get a chance to do a film about that, but or a video about that, but you know, it was a little disappointing to watch that. I was like, I mean, we've already known that he was abusive, and I think what also happens is when you don't get to witness it firsthand, or you only hear about it from narratives of people telling, you know, this happened in the past, sometimes people brush over it, because it's like, oh, it happened in the past, but when it's in your face and you finally see it, you're like, oh, God. And so I know Dr. Dre's probably pissed off that this movie came out, because he is shown in a totally different light, and I can guarantee you USC is about to say, you know what, here, take your $30 million back, we don't want it, because, I mean, it was that bad. Now, you know, he says that he never abused her, and I'm not going to sit here and try to do a he said versus she said. All I know is that this woman is somebody who had to go and get a nose job because one of her baby's fathers messed up her nose. Now, she said her nose was already crooked, but one of them abused her to the point where she actually had to go to a doctor and get additional surgery to just fix it. But, you know, this movie was a lot. I think people should check it out. I'm not even going to give it a rating because I don't think you can even rate somebody's experience being abused and try to give it like an A, B, C, or D. But once again, the biggest critique I had is I just wish they would have showcased a little bit more of her experience after the relationships and what it was like, you know. I think, not to compare movies of women who have been in abusive relationships, but when you look at like the Tina Turner movie, they did a great job of showcasing her life after Ike and, you know, the financial hardship and her trying to get on her feet and her career falling off and her, you know, going into a new realm of spirituality and then, you know, things that went on with her kids and her taking care of Ike's kids after everything and they weren't even hers, you know, stuff like that. And so I would have liked to know what else happened, you know, does she still want to do music? I know they said she's doing it now, but like I said, there was a lot, but I think this was a great film. I can't wait for them to continue to do more biopics. Somebody whose movie I would really, really, really like to see, I mean, it's always in her music, but I would really like to see a Mary J. Blige flick. Like, yeah, give me the whole Mary J. story. I want it all Mary J. Give me everything from her starting with Father MC all the way up until now. And I think there's also, no one's ever done it, and I think it's because it goes to the conversation of gender roles. But I know there are some men who have been in abusive relationships, whether even if they were gay or even if they were straight, you know. I know that there are some male entertainers that have been in some kind of abusive relationship or abusive situation, and I would like to see that story told by somebody who's brave enough to step up to the plate and talk about that. Because there's men who are in abusive relationships, and because you have the element of gender roles and what is masculinity and what isn't, a lot of men are afraid to come forward. But that's also a conversation. Anyway, this video is too long. So subscribe, let me know what you think about the movie. Who else do you want to see? Anyway, I'm out.